Hi guys, Petrik here. Today's video will be about my most anticipated book release of the year. And that means this list consists of books that already have confirmation that they will be released within this year. If they don't have any confirmation yet, I won't be including them in the list, but there are 5 books that I should include in my honorable mentions. These 5 books are books that I'm very much looking forward to reading and hopefully being released as soon as possible. The first one is Outlaw Empire by Nicholas Eames. This is the 3rd and final book in the Band trilogy. And then the 6th book in the Red Rising saga. You can actually pre-order this book already, but there is no confirmation yet that this book is being released within this year. And of course, the last 3 honorable mention goes to the Bermuda Triangle of unreleased fantasy books, and you know what they are. Thorn of Emberlane by Scott Lynch, Doors of Stone by Patrick Rothfuss, and Winds of Winter by George R. Martin. Yeah, those are the 5 honorable mentions, and these 5 books, if they come out within this year, I will be reading them immediately. So yeah, let's begin with the list. By the way, this list is arranged by month. It's not arranged by priority order. I think this is the best way for me to do this video. And I'm going to begin with the month of May, which basically will mean that I'm kicking this list off with a bang. And it is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is the first book in the Bloodsworn saga. This will be the first time that John Gwynne ventures out of the Banished Land saga, and I am so looking forward to reading this book. I mean, you guys know how much I love John Gwynne's books, and this one is supposedly a Vikings, Beowulf, and Ragnarok-inspired epic fantasy. Those already sounds epic enough, and this is written by John Gwynne. That's all. Definitely one of my most anticipated books. And next in the month of May, we have Priest of Gallows. This is the 3rd book in the War for the Rose Throne Quartet by Peter McLean, an incredible grimdark fantasy series with a first-person narration that's so hard to imitate. One of the most distinctive narrative voice that I've ever read so far. Amazing. I've been looking forward to reading this for quite a while because, well, this book didn't come out last year. I thought it would come out in 2020, but it didn't. But thankfully there's confirmation that it will be released within this May. Then the 3rd book in the month of May is The Blacktongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This book, this fantasy debut, is a book that's been praised by so many authors right now. Glenn Cook has praised it, Robin Hobb has praised it, Nicholas Eames, and then Anthony Ryan, Brian Naslund, and so many more. And it's not only authors. I know 2 reviewers who have reviewed this book like 2 months ago, I think, and has called it the debut of the year before this year has even arrived. So yeah, but I'm going to try to keep my expectations in check here because usually my expectation for this kind of hype ended up disappointing me. Hopefully this doesn't happen to this book because it looked gorgeous and, well, it does sound good. Then the next most anticipated book in the month of May is The Broken God by Gareth Hanrahan. This is the 3rd book in the Black Iron Legacy. For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Gareth Hanrahan's debut called The Gutter Prayer, and the 2nd book, The Shadow Saint, is also a very great book. It's an unconventional fantasy series and it's so original. The first book especially is one of my favorite debuts of all time. And the first book somehow reminded me a lot of Bloodborne. There is this vibe and atmosphere from the setting that's very reminiscent of this Yharnam in Bloodborne. And this is another that I thought would come out last year, but it didn't. And this will also be released this May. And the final book in the month of May that I'm looking forward to being released is Master Artificer by Justin Cole. This is the 2nd book in the Silent Gods Quartet. Honestly, I haven't read Master of Sorrows. It is Justin Cole's debut that's being released in 2018. But judging based on what I've heard about the series so far and from trusted reviewers who have read the first book, I think this is a series that will definitely click for me, especially because it contains magic school and coming of age story. I thought of binge reading Master of Sorrow last year together with Master Artificer, then turns out that Master Artificer is being delayed into this May. So I'm going to binge read these 2 books this year. And that's for the month of May. Let's move on to the month of June. There is only 1 book in the month of June that I'm anticipating here. It is The Play of Shadows by Sebastien de Castell. This is the first book in a new series called Court of Shadows. I love Great Coat series by Sebastien de Castell. It was so fun, it's so entertaining, and the 3 main characters were just very engaging characters that I love reading about, especially Brusty. There's a lot of hilarious and tense moments, and I think it's overall just a really fun series. And this Play of Shadows will take place after the Great Coast series, so I'm looking forward to reading what's next in this world. Then we move on to the month of July. There are 3 books here. The first one is The Empire's Ruin by Brian Staveley. This is the first book in Ashes of the Unhewn Throne, and it is one of my most anticipated books of the year. I'm so looking forward to reading this book, you have no idea. I have mentioned in my favorite standalone books of all time that Bloodsworn is one of my favorite books. It is just an amazing book. I love Brian Staveley's prose so much, and the world that he has built in this series is something that's quite different from many other fantasy series, in my opinion. I enjoyed Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne trilogy, there is no doubt about that. But Bloodsworn is just something that's very special to me. It is just thoroughly amazing, and Staveley's prose, as I always say, is exemplary to me. I absolutely love the way he writes, and if Bloodsworn is the sign of his quality right now, and somehow the Empire's Ruin managed to live up to it, or maybe even better, then I'm sure that the Empire's Ruin will definitely be included in my favorite books of the year list. I'm so excited for this book because, well, as Staveley has mentioned, it features some of my favorite side characters as main characters now. I simply cannot wait. Then the next book that I'm looking forward to in July is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker-Chan. This is the first book in Radiant Emperor duology and is an Asian-inspired historical fantasy. There is so much praises towards this book, it's crazy. And it has been advertised as Song of Achilles meets Mulan. And wow, that sounds really good to me. And my co-blogger Emma actually have read this book, and she gave it 5 stars. She called it an absolutely amazing book, and trust me, she's very critical about books. And she told me that I will definitely have to read this book. And the cover art is beautiful. It's done by Jungshan Inc. It's the same cover artist who did the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang. Then the last book in the month of July is A Desert Throne Asunder by Bradley Beaulieu. I haven't started this series, but I have mentioned it that this is one of my priority series to read in this year. I've heard a lot of great things about this series, and even though I haven't started it, I'm so excited for this book release. Then we move on to the month of August. There is only one book here. It is We Cry for Blood by Devin Madson. There is no cover art yet. We Ride the Storm is one of my favorite books. I read the self-published edition in 2018, and I've also read We Lie With Death, the self-published edition, in 2019. But then the author became traditionally published by Orbit, and because of that, the third book has been postponed to this year. And well, it's been 2 years since 2019. I'm glad I can finally find the continuation of this series now. We're halfway through the list now, and we move on to the month of September. And we have 3 books here. The first one is The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie. This is the third and final book in the Age of Madness trilogy. Well, I don't think I need to say anything more about this one because, well, the Age of Madness and the entire First Law series by Joe Abercrombie is one of my favorite series of all time. And Abercrombie is an author that doesn't show any degradation in his quality of writing. It's just incredible how he keeps on doing this. And there is a good chance that this The Wisdom of Crowds could actually be Abercrombie's best work in his career so far. We'll see. Then we have Empire of the Vampire by Jade Kristoff. This is the first book in the new trilogy called Empire of the Vampire 2. Considering how much I enjoyed Nevernight trilogy, which was quite surprising because I didn't expect I would enjoy that trilogy that much, but I did. I end up enjoying it so much, especially the third book, and everything about Empire of the Vampire that I know so far has been very, very promising. And Jay Kristoff himself seems to have mentioned that this is his best work so far, so yeah, I'm so excited. And speaking of excitement, the last book in the month of September is Jade Legacy. This is the third and final book in the Greenbone Saga by Fonda. Oh my god, I'm so looking forward to this book. Especially Jade War is one of the greatest sequels that I've ever read. I will definitely be rereading the entire trilogy before the release of Jade Legacy. So excited for this one. And knowing Fonda, my heart is about to be broken again, and I think I will thank her for it. Her books are so intense, emotional, and the characterizations are phenomenal. So good. So good. Probably the best urban fantasy series right now. And now we move on to the month of October. This is a placeholder month, and there's only one book here. It is Leviathan Falls by James S. A. Corey. This is the final book in the X-Pan series, a series that I have enjoyed so far. I have mixed feelings about the books, but the TV series, oh my god. The TV series is one of the greatest sci-fi TV show that I've ever watched. Seriously, if you haven't watched the TV show, do watch it right now. The current season is astoundingly good. And of course, I had a great time with the books too. That's why I'm looking forward to the release of this final book. especially because Tiamat's Wrath, the 8th and penultimate book in the series, was my favorite book of the series so far. We have only 6 books left, and all of them are in the month of November. This is a big month. The first one is The Bone Shot Emperor by Andrea Stewart. This is the sequel to The Bone Shot Daughter, my favorite debut of last year. And of course, because of that, this is in my most anticipated book release of the year. Then we have The Veiled Throne by Ken Liu. This is the 3rd book in the Dandelion Dynasty Quartet. I haven't started this series at all, but knowing Ken Liu and his writing, I'm sure I'm going to love this series so much. I already own The Grace of Kings and The Wall of Storms. I also already pre-ordered this book. This was originally a trilogy, and it has been in my TBR since 2017, and I'm not sure yet whether I will be able to get to this series this year or not, but if not, I think it will be next year, because the 4th book, the final book of the series, will be released in April 2022, assuming there is no more delay. Then the next book in the month of November is the sequel to The Stone Knife. There is no title for this book yet, but Anna Stevens has mentioned that it will be released within this year. Hopefully November. I love The Stone Knife. It is one of my favorite reads of 2020, and hopefully the sequel will live up to it. Then the next book is The God Is Not Willing by Steven Erikson. This is the 1st book in the Witness trilogy, and it is a sequel series to the Malazan Book of the Fallen, which I'm currently in the middle of rereading right now, and it's honestly blowing my mind. I will be doing a book review on Gardens of the Moon, and maybe the entire series on this channel. Malazan Book of the Fallen is one of my favorite series of all time, as some of you probably know already, and I hope this book will be able to live up to the expectations, because there is a lot of high expectations towards this book right now. Then the next book is The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. This is the 4th and final book in the Books of Babel Quartet, and it is an incredible series. I have been looking forward to reading this one. Senlin Ascends and Arm of the Sphinx were great, but The Hot King, that one was a roller coaster. So good. It's been quite a while since I read The Hot King, or even the 1st book, and I think I will be reading the entire series again before the release of this one. And the final book in my most anticipated book release of the year is The Navigator's Children by Tad Williams. Again, this is one of those series that I haven't started yet, but I'm just so excited for this to be released. As I mentioned, this is the biggest priority series to start and finish for me this year. And a lot of people have been messaging me saying that, oh my god, you need to start reading Dragonbone Chair soon. You will definitely love this book. And I'm just, I have to be patient. I will be starting the Dragonbone Chair in the second half of this year. That way I can keep my memories and details of the series more intact before the release of The Navigator's Children. And that's my most anticipated book release of the year. Obviously, there are still a lot of other books that I'm looking forward to, but if I don't limit myself to 20 books, this list will be so damn long. Again, as I mentioned, these lists aren't arranged in priority order, but if I were to give a top 5 priority book release of this year, it would be The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, The Empire's Ruin by Brian Staveley, Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie, and finally The Navigator's Children by Tad Williams. And that's all the priority book release that I'm looking forward to this year. Do you spot any books on this list that are on your radar of most anticipated books of the year? Let me know. And before I end this video, I just want to say a few things about this channel goal. I only have one goal, and that's to reach 20,000 subscribers before the year ends. I don't know whether that's possible or not, but I'm pretty laid back about this. I think I'll just always do my best and hopefully improve myself along the way. I also want to include more book reviews on this channel, and of course series review, which I haven't done yet. I hope I will be able to do them all. And for reading goal, my reading goal is 100 books. I have done that since 2017. 4 years in a row now, and hopefully I can do it again. And yeah, that's it for today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.